everyone. Yeah, as I just said, before we introduce our speakers this morning, I'm just going to give you a brief outline of the items that we're going to cover in today. We're going to do a short introduction. Then we're going to be talking about challenges of a traditional board pack creation distribution, the board pack process administration, what do directors really need, board portals and tablets, delivering concise and timely materials, and as mentioned previously, questions at the end. So let's begin. Our speakers today are Ahmed from BBK and Oliver Lewis from Computershare Governance Services. Ahmed Qudoos is Board Secretary and Corporate Governance Officer of BBK, and his prior occupation, Senior Manager, Expansion, Research and Development at Speculative International Company. Oliver Lewis is currently at Computershare Governance Services and is a Business Development Manager in the EMEA region. He's responsible for marketing and compliance suite and governance solutions, which is our global entity management and corporate board portal within the EMEA region. Oliver has been working with a number of Fortune 1000 companies in the previous years and has had hundreds of engagements with them in the corporate governance space. A little bit on Computershare Governance Services this morning. Computershare Governance Services is owned by Computershare Limited and is a publicly traded company with annual revenues of over $1.5 billion. Founded in 1978, it's grown through acquisitions to be the largest share registrar in the world. Computershare has a presence in the Middle East, in Bahrain, with a joint venture with Kabi. Kabi and Computershare acquired the KPMG barcode business headquartered in Bahrain. Computershare currently have 90 offices throughout North America, Europe, Asia, Australia and Africa.
Thank you very much for that, Ian. Good morning, everybody. Oliver Lewis here. Thank you for joining the conference this morning. Before we start talking about the type of technology and this board portal technology, I'm quite keen to just step back 1 second and to really go through what are the traditional challenges when you're preparing an actual board pack. And I'd like to hand over to Ahmed just to give a little bit about his experience prior to using this type of technology and the type of challenges that he had while he was using paper.
Thank you very much, Ian. This is Ahmed Abdul Qudoos, Board Secretary and Corporate Governance Officer, BBK. I'm sure there are many board secretaries among the attendees this morning. So you know what kind of challenges we're talking about when you come to preparing the meeting packs the traditional way. Actually, I have come from a different background. I come from insurance and engineering background. So I've been the board secretary for this company for the last 5 years. However, when I came, I was kind of shocked because the amount of paper, the amount of work, the amount of effort which is, put for preparing the board meetings was huge, really. And I was sure that there are some technologies that can cater for this need. So I joined in 2009 and started digging into this and came across Computershare. Computershare, they have the one of the products which addresses this need. And I started taking the information about it and going back to the board and getting their blessings. And it took for us, because we were one of the first who used this kind of system or online portal for the board. It took us a couple of years actually to decide. But once we decided, many people wanted to follow us because they saw that this is a success story. And of course, we went through a lot. We went through, scrutinizing the security, scrutinizing the confidentiality elements, so many aspects that, usually people will be scared when we talk about online and having online systems replacing your traditional systems. Although there are many security aspects to the online portal which are not there in the paper. And of course, I'm sure you are all aware when you prepare for the meeting pack, especially if you have hefty meetings and many items on the agenda. You will find it very difficult, and you need many resources, many employees to prepare the meeting packs and put the paper in order and print and arrange all these meeting packs, which at the end of the day are very heavy and very difficult to handle. And then, of course, you have the courier delivery if you have outside or overseas board members, and the danger or the risk associated with the unsecured email if you want to use email. And there are many challenges if you want to use email as an electronic means of delivery, yet it's not very effective. And then, of course, we have the amount of paper and the damage we cause to environment. One of the aspects of that the bank believes in, part of the corporate social responsibility of the bank, is that we want to preserve the environment. We don't want to have lots of paper and then at the end of the day it will be shredded and cause many other risks to the environment. This is one of the principles of the bank, that we try to use e-statements, e-banking, and other means of e-business to avoid creating paper and using paper. So this has complemented our principles and corporate values of paperless kind of environment. So this has, applying the online portal or board portal has saved a lot in terms of cost, in terms of producing paper, in terms of effort from the staff, and other things as well, amongst other things which I'm sure that during the course of this presentation will be discussed. So yes, for us it was a success story, and of course the good thing is this kind of technology is improved over the time. It's not stopping at anywhere. At the beginning we had many questions from our directors. How would we put our remarks or notes on the paper, on the documents, when they are we can just view it on the computer. And then this was addressed by our supplier, Computershare, and then now they can annotate and they can put their notes, and they could edit the document and collaborate the document. So many issues that can be addressed during the coming years, and all the suppliers for this kind of technology are working on it. So I'm sure it will be interesting for everybody to consider this kind of technology, and this is our story in short.
Ahmed, thank you very much for that. So having gone through a certain amount of the challenge that you had prior to this type of technology, I just want to say a few words in terms of why I think a board portal made sense for BBK and for a lot of other companies. The board portal is really the here and now way of doing a board meeting. To give you a very small definition, it is a centralized, secure, single location to assemble, collate, distribute, and really ultimately destroy your board materials. The board portal eliminates a lot of the challenges that Ahmed mentioned, and when we're talking about security, you log in for a secure website, and only people with the correct privileges can access the relevant information, which I believe to be a very strong point. As Ahmed also said, it eliminates a majority of the printing when you're talking about sort of green initiatives as well. So in terms of this centralized location, there is no multiple copies of the board pack floating in and around the company, and even externally, when the papers are copied out to individual directors, this is something that we can now manage directly, centralized through this particular portal. Security is obviously, as Ahmed mentioned, is absolutely paramount. This is something that I'll discuss a little bit later on. But I think that the main message that I'd like to give here is that you know where your material is at any point and at any time. I thought it made sense, first of all, to give you a couple of statistics. Obviously, this is a KPMG study. This is more focused on the US. However, I've taken this simply because the figures that come out from the US are quite similar to the trend that we're seeing in the UK, Central Europe, South Africa, and now Bahrain. Albeit at probably a slightly slower rate within the Gulf region, but we can see that there is a particular 3-year life cycle once the board portal has actually entered the market. So we can see now that this particular raise over the last 3 years of the amount of boards who now have this type of technology. You're probably wondering to yourself why over this 3 years we have seen such an increase in this type of technology, and I think there is, among quite a few answers, there is one which for me stands out, and it is through this primary technology that has changed the face of board portals, and it is the use of tablets, and in particular the iPad. I mean, to put things into context, board portals have pretty much been around since the internet, but what has really made and revolutionized this type of technology is really the portability and the accessibility elements, and that has really changed the game since the iPad has come out. In other ways, it has pretty much revolutionized the way companies now distribute their board papers. To give you a simple stat, about 1/3 of all board members now actually own an iPad. So it is changing the way people are getting information and how they are actually bringing this information into the board meeting. We feel that the time is right now within the Gulf region and the Middle East to be looking at this type of technology. And if you're not looking at this now, I'm sure this is something which will be quite a high priority over the coming months. To go through a couple of the really high-level advantages, and Ahmed, do step in at any point if there's any particular point which you find of particular relevance. The portal allows all levels of security factors beyond the traditional methods that Ahmed was talking about. You have the opportunity to create access legals to individual meetings. You have the opportunity to identify who in a meeting has access to only certain areas of the pack, obviously something that you cannot do with paper. And you have the opportunity to bring a guest into the meeting without giving them access to the whole pack. So, for example, if you have an auditor which occasionally comes to a board meeting, he can only have access to maybe 1 or 2 chapters of the pack. I mean, to put this into context, we go to a lot of board meetings where we implement this particular product. And while we're actually talking about security with a lot of the directors, one particular director was asking, do we actually have to shred these board papers? Because I have plenty of these particular papers and all my annotations at home. So, this shows that there is still a bit of a discoverability concept around this. Obviously, most companies now have policies around shredding the books. Some would shred them at the meeting, and everyone would put the board in the middle of the room and shred them. But there's always the risk of some directors either bringing home the pack, or maybe leaving it or forgetting it somewhere. The portal will eliminate this process with the possibility of destroying the pack on time, for example, 24 hours after a meeting, or the opportunity for the administrator or board secretary to automatically clean the actual board papers, so what we call the remote wipe. So through the iPad
Oliver, if I may add just something here. We were about to add a clause in our code of conduct for the board of directors that they should return all the meeting packs after each meeting, so they will not keep any of the meeting packs. But once the online portal was introduced, we saw no need for this, and we did not introduce this clause because, they will not have they will not have at their hand, the actual meeting packs. They will just have it online, and they could be, deleted once we decide to. So there was no need for this kind of, clauses or rules to be put in place because of the online portal.
Ahmed, that's a very good point. Thank you for that example. Another area which for us has been critical at speaking to a lot of board secretaries is the time saving around collecting the documentation and information, collating that information, change of the board materials, trying to find and courier and locating the directors. And I think probably one which stands out for me is the portal is subject to last-minute changes at the day of the board meeting. So I can imagine you've all been through a process where half an hour before the board meeting, a new paper arrives, or you need to amend your current pack. So with the portal, this is very easily done within a couple of clicks. I know we've covered a couple of these a lot of this on this slide before, but I put this slide in just to show and really emphasize on the strength of the efficiency and security for both sides. And when I mean both sides, I mean the administrator, whether that's the company secretary or the board secretary, and also the directors as well. In relation to the admin side of things, if we're looking on the right-hand side, as I mentioned, this can be, as Ahmed stated, it can be a cumbersome process to gather all this information and to collate all the material. The strength of the portal centralizes all this for you, and you can actually create areas within the portal itself where you don't automatically have to rely on email constantly. Now, for example, the CFO, if he has certain materials, instead of sending it directly to the administrator, has the opportunity of also posting it directly into the portal. The CEO, for example, may have some reports that he can also directly upload onto the portal. So instead of sending zip files and sending constant email to administrator, everybody can actually build its own little area within the portal itself. Obviously, within reason, which I will talk later on, but it really adds that kind of interactivity between the administrators and the directors. From a director's point of view, as you can see from the left-hand side, I think for me and for a lot of people we've spoken to, the one that stands out is the opportunity to easily carry your iPad as opposed to carrying multiple books. To give you a simple example, one of our directors may sit on 3 boards, he may sit on 6 committees, and you're talking thousands and thousands of pages that he potentially needs to bring into a board meeting. Here, everything is centralized and everything is stored within the one iPad, and he can easily change from one board to another, or he can access his different papers from his different committees. So it's the possibility of an updated board book in real time, and it's a much easier area to follow within the actual meeting itself. Ahmed, if I quickly ask you, what would you say from your director's perspective was really the main and key area?
One of the main things is, it's funny, but the weight of the meeting packs. We have very hefty meeting packs, and sometimes the directors are on certain board committees as well, so they have to carry the meeting packs of the board and the committees, especially while they're traveling, and think about the weight of those meeting packs. Maybe for some companies not very much an issue, but for us it was a really big issue. So with this, like you mentioned, the iPad has really revolutionized this, the use of this technology, because the weight is very light and it's very convenient to carry rather than the meeting packs. And also, we use the portal not only for the meeting packs, we use it for other things, like for reference materials and reading books. We add all the board policies and whatever is relevant, the procedures which are relevant to the board members. These are, they're all at one-stop shop, like we call it. They don't have to go to the files or to the documents or consult anybody in the company. It's all in one place. So this has made their life really easy. So when they come to each meeting, they thank me for having that, this kind of portal.
Ahmed, thank you very much for that point. Ian, thank you very much. one area which I know I've touched upon, but which is for us an extremely important one, is really security. For me, and for a lot of the individuals who we work with, this is one of the key benefits to the portal itself. I mean, we are all familiar with e-discoverability issues. The concept of sending out emails, for example, to non-executive directors. I mean, the property of the email does not automatically belong to the company if they sit on other boards. So for us, the portal really allows to contain everything within this one particular place. And as Ahmed mentioned, the opportunity to destroy the board packs at the end of the meeting. Another area in terms of security is in relation to encryption. You've got the opportunity to lock down files and add passwords to files, which obviously is far beyond what you can do with paper. Numerous examples where directors have actually left their board papers, may it be in their hotel room, may it be in a restaurant, and it is really there for everybody to pick up. With technology and the particular portal, this really alleviates any anxieties around what the directors have done with the paper or where they potentially may have left it. Another concept which is extremely important is if the device has been compromised, you lose your iPad, you forget your iPad somewhere, the board secretary administrator has the opportunity to automatically remote purge and delete any documents which are located within the director's iPad area. So this is really a new level of security which has been added on top of what already exists. In simple context, I would say that security is really the underpinning of the whole process. It's about changing mindsets in a certain way. Ian, please. Thank you very much. Obviously, in terms of the board portal and this type of technology, it is obviously something which is key, but on the other hand, there's always that decision-making process in terms of how do you get buy-in and how do you reduce this time. In most businesses, one important aspect of the board materials, and I'm talking prior to technology, is obviously to make sure that you have one main person who has that authority to set and distribute the materials. So directors do not receive materials from all different people. I think speaking to a lot of board secretaries, this is still critical with the portal itself. We need a certain amount of discipline, and we don't want everybody just uploading any materials into the portal itself. To give you a specific example, we tend to find that with less important information, do you attach this to the board papers? I think the common knowledge is that, for example, if you've got reports or releases which are not as important, not as critical as maybe certain board papers, as Ahmed mentioned, you have the opportunity of putting this in what we call maybe a reference section. These are particular documents that you may generally attach to your board pack, but with this type of technology, you can simply keep this within the portal. The directors can come in and can review and look at any of this type of information, and it doesn't automatically need to be attached to the actual pack itself, and therefore it reduces the number of pages that the directors need to review within the pack as well. So it's a different way of managing the documentation and a different way of seeing where we can actually put this relevant documentation, but all within the means of security, of course. Another point, and I think it's a point which is an honest point, is there are going to be glitches. You need to allow for that, otherwise it's just going to add on a huge amount of stress. There is sometimes a couple of glitches, a couple of issues, but I think as long as we allow for that, then we're in good condition. Also, I would say at the start of the process, it's important to get your IT guys comfortable. After that, you can actually, as a board secretary or as administrator, actually run with the project on your own, and at that point, the IT involvement is actually minimal. Ahmed, if I just go back to one of the points that you mentioned, what would you say really was the buy-in to your directors? How did you actually mention this or at least raise this to your directors, and how did they respond to this type of technology?
It's kind of strange because, we were, very much hesitant to introduce this to our directors, and we thought they were just rejected from the start. Because we never thought of this before, and we never introduced this before, so this is what our fear. However, when we introduced it, everybody accepted the idea. Okay, we just took their blessings without showing him what it is actually, to change from system. Do you actually will, or do you have the will, or do you wish to change from the traditional ways to the online portal? And we got their blessing at the beginning before we go and do our studies and feasibility studies, whatever, with the IT people. Once we did that, we were free to work. We prepared our feasibility study. We did a comparison between the current traditional ways and also an in-house solution which we could develop ourselves, and also outsourcing it to outsiders. We did a full study, and we showed it to the board. We did a presentation, and 90% of the board members were happy about what we're talking about, and they did not wait much. They just asked us to implement. Like you mentioned, the use of iPad has changed a lot of things, because we were thinking if they're going to use their desktops or laptops at the meeting, it's going to be a hassle. But once the iPad was introduced, we actually, as a company, we bought the iPads for the new latest version for the board members, and we have the application ready for our portal on the iPad. So they are using that. It is you don't need any computer literate people. Anybody from the from the board could use it without any hassle, even if he's not used to computer or technology or nothing. It's because it's touch of a button, and you get everything you need without any hassle. So this was actually not a big challenge. We thought it's going to be a big challenge, but it wasn't. I'm sure when other people will introduce it to their boards, they will not think of it as a challenge. This is something. It's a psychological barrier that board secretaries have, that boards will reject things. But once we introduced it, we didn't have any problems actually. But maybe we're lucky.
Thank you very much, Ahmed, for that. Much appreciated. So I think for us, to really sum up the ideal solution, it really is a thoughtful implementation of the board portal, which is necessary. When you're looking at the strengths, you're looking at fastest delivery, better security, and I think really the ultimate goal is really to improve the board decision making in order to carry out, in order for the directors to carry out their fiduciary duties. I would say the portal is the vehicle, but you need to look at your process and what information you're actually sharing as well. There are different areas to disseminate information within the board portal, and as we mentioned earlier on, I think there is the opportunity to put different things in the reference material rather than maybe particularly directly into the board pack itself, so directors can go back in and sort of reference to other documentation.
If I may add here something, Oliver, that of course we agreed that the board secretary should be the person who administers, and his team could also help him with that. They could be the administrators for the portal. For that, because if they are not very technology pro persons, or they're not very familiar with the technology, it's very important to make sure that the administration of the portal is very easy and straightforward, so they will not have any issues with that.
Thank you very much for that point. Carrying on to that point, actually, I think one of the main advantages is a portal is available 24/7, 7 days a week. So, if you're thinking about something, you can go back and look into particular sections. You can really change the direction of how the directors are actually thinking about the material, compared to maybe receiving a pack once every quarter, for example. You draw the material, and this will surely help the directors to make better decisions for the business as a whole. most providers also allow board assessments that can be done directly within the portal, such as annual board performance surveys. And, you can ask simple questions as to even how are you finding the use of this type of technology. It really is the opportunity to rethink what you distribute and to actually who is receiving the relevant papers. Ahmed, did you have anything to add in relation to that?
I think we covered this slide already.
Absolutely. So, from my perspective, I hope that's been a good overview in relation to the type of challenges previously that companies may have, and how this type of technology can alleviate some of those challenges from a security and efficiency point of view, both from the directors and the administrators. Now what I'd like to do, and I think to make it a bit more interactive, is really open up this session to any particular questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Oliver. We have received some questions through the WebEx, so I'm just going to put them to yourself and Ahmed. The first question we have is for Ahmed. Do all the directors at BBK use iPads to receive their board papers?
Yes, they do. And of course, they are on the board, and also they are committee members. Some of the committee members are executive directors. I mean, they're part of the management, and they also use it without any problem.
Fantastic, thank you. I think this is a question for Oliver. What prevents data from being copied to the device or printed?
Thank you, and that's a very interesting question, actually. Obviously, this depends on the vendor, and I can only obviously speak to ourselves, but we have certain security settings which would disable the ability to print, the ability to email and to forward the board papers. We can also limit where you can actually save this particular pack, and with our offline area, you can actually, as I mentioned previously, remote wipe the documents if, for example, one of the directors has lost his iPad, or if the iPad has been compromised. So I think, in other words, you can limit what the end user can see, and you can also limit what the end user actually does with this particular document or board papers. So I hope that answers that question.
Thanks, Oliver. This next question is for both of you. So, Ahmed, if you'd like to answer this first. The question is, if our directors are on several boards, do you need to carry 2 iPads when they travel?
Well, our current solution provides, of course, when you use the iPad, you have an application to use for the portal, and that's dedicated to one company currently. But we're working with the developers to actually introduce more than one company on the same application. But if you don't have that, you still could go. I mean, if you're using the iPad, you can go to Safari and just type in the URL and save it as a bookmark and access the other company's board, which is not really difficult. If you have the username and login details.
Thank you for that, Ahmed. I'd go even further now. We have a concept, what we call the multi-board feature now, which actually gives you the opportunity to switch from one board to the other with the same app, and actually with the same password as well. So now there is this interactivity where you simply need to click onto your other company, and you can directly change and go to the papers of that particular company. So whether you sit on multiple committees, whether you sit on multiple boards, there is the opportunity to directly change within this particular area, which is something which I think is important with the amount of directors you obviously sit on different boards.
Thank you, Oliver. Another question here, this is for Ahmed. How long have BBK been using a portal for?
We're using the portal since the middle of 2011, so I would say 2 years now.
Fantastic.
For 2 years, yeah.
Thank you. Another question here, and this is for Oliver. Is it possible to use a board portal offline?
Thank you very much for that particular question. Obviously, the opportunity with this type of technology is to be able to have access to all your documents offline, in the sense that if, for example, the directors does not have access to the wireless or internet, you have the opportunity within this particular system to have access to all offline material, to be able to annotate on that particular material. So we have all types of annotation features, so from different voice annotations within the document offline, to different highlighting, to looking maybe even at the previous annotations that you've made. So, for example, if you started annotating your pack and, a couple of weeks later you go back to that particular pack, you will be, with a click of a button, you'll be able to see all the previous annotations, and you'll be able to see on what page you've actually made these annotations as well. And for certain companies, there's the opportunity to also color coordinate your annotations and comments as well.
Right, I think that's all the questions that we've got in this morning. If there's any others that you have, please feel free to get in contact. I would like to thank our speakers, Oliver and Ahmed, for joining us today and sharing their wisdom and insights with us. Today's session we published to the CGS YouTube channel. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Have a good morning. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.